Supreme Court just issued a unanimous 9-0 ruling, and it immediately changes the rules for gun owners across all 50 states. This is not a minor adjustment or a technical clarification, it is a historic decision that will redefine concealed carry laws nationwide. Millions of Americans are now facing a reality where their constitutional right to carry a firearm for self-defense is clearer, stronger, and more uniformly protected than ever before. The implications of this ruling are enormous, touching on legal standards, personal freedoms, public safety, and even the balance of power between state and federal authority. For decades, concealed carry regulations in the United States have been a patchwork, with each state creating its own system. Some states made it relatively easy for residents to carry a concealed firearm, requiring minimal background checks or training, while others created highly restrictive systems with extensive requirements, arbitrary approvals, or even limitations that effectively prevented many people from exercising their right. Traveling from one state to another often left gun owners unsure of whether their permits were valid, creating legal confusion and potential risk. This new ruling eliminates much of that inconsistency, creating a single, constitutional standard that applies to every state. The Supreme Court emphasized that the Second Amendment guarantees a fundamental right, the right to keep and bear arms for self-defense. The justices stated clearly that any law which unnecessarily restricts the ability of law-abiding citizens to carry concealed firearms is unconstitutional. This does not mean that states lose all ability to regulate firearms, but it does mean that regulations must be reasonable and cannot undermine the core right of self-defense. Essentially, the court has drawn a line in the sand, establishing that the right to carry is protected nationwide and that arbitrary or overly restrictive laws are no longer permissible. For gun owners, this is a monumental shift. Many citizens who previously faced extensive hurdles, long waiting periods, or outright denials for concealed carry permits now have stronger legal protection. They can carry confidently, knowing that their rights are backed by the highest court in the land. The ruling also reduces the legal uncertainty for those traveling between states, as permits and concealed carry rights are now more consistently recognized. This clarity is likely to reduce legal disputes and confusion, which have plagued gun owners for decades. Critics of the decision have already voiced concerns, warning that making concealed carry more accessible could lead to increased risks in public spaces. They argue that easier access to firearms may increase accidents or incidents of misuse. The Supreme Court, however, addressed these concerns, emphasizing that reasonable safety measures remain permissible. States can still implement laws to prevent individuals with criminal records, violent histories, or serious mental health issues from obtaining firearms. The ruling strikes a balance. It protects constitutional rights while still allowing for safety measures that prevent misuse and protect public welfare. One immediate consequence of this ruling will be the response from state legislatures. States that have resisted loosening their concealed carry laws now face a legal obligation to comply with the Supreme Court's decision. This may involve repealing requirements such as proof of good cause or overly complex training prerequisites. Legislators will need to review existing statutes and amend any regulations that could be considered unconstitutional under the new ruling. This process may take months, but the ultimate outcome is a uniform legal framework that applies across the entire country. Legal experts are calling this a landmark decision. A unanimous 9-0 ruling of this magnitude is exceedingly rare and signals a strong consensus among the justices about the importance of protecting constitutional rights. It is comparable to past landmark decisions that reshaped voting rights, privacy protections, and other fundamental liberties. By speaking with unanimity, the Supreme Court is not only interpreting the law, it is sending a message to the nation about what it considers essential. In this case, the justices have made it clear that the right to carry a firearm for self-defense is a fundamental, nationwide right that cannot be unduly restricted. The practical implications for individuals are profound. Millions of Americans who carry concealed weapons for self-defense now have reinforced legal protection. Those who were previously hesitant to apply for a permit because of restrictive state laws may now do so with confidence. Gun owners traveling across state lines will also benefit from a clearer legal landscape, reducing the risk of legal violations due to conflicting state laws. Even law enforcement agencies will need to adjust their policies and training to align with the new legal reality, understanding that citizens may now carry concealed weapons more widely than before. Public reaction is already significant. Gun rights supporters see this ruling as a major victory, reinforcing the Second Amendment and asserting the principle that constitutional rights cannot be undermined by inconsistent state regulations. Advocates for gun control, on the other hand, are expressing concern, arguing that easier access to concealed firearms could pose public safety risks. This ruling is likely to fuel political debates, With both sides using the decision to argue for their policy priorities, the conversation around firearms laws in the United States is poised to intensify as states implement changes and citizens respond to their new rights. The ruling also raises questions about the future of gun legislation and the role of the Supreme Court in shaping national policy. When the court issues a unanimous ruling on such a significant issue, it sets a precedent that lower courts and state governments are likely to follow. The decision could have implications for other areas where state regulations vary widely, signaling that the court is willing to impose uniform standards when fundamental rights are involved. This could affect debates on issues such as self-defense, privacy, or other constitutional protections where state-level discrepancies create legal uncertainty. One of the key elements of the court's decision is that it clarifies the balance between individual rights and public safety. While the ruling strengthens citizens' ability to carry concealed firearms, it does not remove all safeguards. States retain the ability to enforce rules regarding eligibility, training, and responsible firearm ownership. This ensures that public safety remains a priority, while also reaffirming that law-abiding citizens cannot be arbitrarily prevented from exercising their constitutional rights. It is a nuanced decision that addresses both liberty and responsibility, something that legal analysts have praised for its depth and foresight. It is a nuanced decision that addresses both liberty and responsibility, something that legal analysts have praised for its depth and foresight. The ruling also has economic and social implications. Firearms training programs, permit issuing authorities, and legal services related to gun ownership will all be affected. Training schools may see increased enrollment as more citizens seek to comply with new requirements, and attorneys specializing in firearms law may find new cases and opportunities arising from disputes over state compliance. Socially, the decision may also influence how Americans perceive personal safety, self-defense, and the role of government in regulating everyday life. It represents a broader conversation about rights and responsibilities that will shape public attitudes for years to come. Traveling citizens, in particular, benefit from this ruling. Before the decision, individuals who moved or traveled between states often faced confusing legal barriers. A permit valid in one state might be invalid in another, leading to unintentional violations and potential legal trouble. Now, with a clear nationwide standard, gun owners can plan travel with confidence, knowing that their rights to carry a concealed weapon are recognized in every state, as long as they comply with reasonable safety regulations. This reduces stress, legal ambiguity, and the potential for unintended violations. The decision also impacts law enforcement strategies and practices. Police officers, sheriffs, and other law enforcement officials must adapt to a landscape where more citizens are legally carrying concealed firearms. This may affect policing tactics, public safety strategies, and community engagement programs. Training for officers may need to incorporate understanding of the new legal environment, ensuring that law enforcement interacts with citizens in ways that respect their rights while maintaining public safety. Beyond practical concerns, the ruling carries symbolic significance. It represents a reaffirmation of the principle that constitutional rights are not subject to arbitrary limitations by individual states. The Supreme Court's unanimous decision sends a message that the federal Constitution is the ultimate standard, and that fundamental rights must be upheld uniformly across the nation. For citizens, this provides clarity, reassurance, and a stronger sense of empowerment regarding their ability to protect themselves. Looking ahead, the ruling will likely inspire further debate and legal analysis. Scholars, lawmakers, and activists on both sides of the gun rights debate will examine the implications, seeking to understand the scope and limits of the decision. It may also influence future court cases, as lower courts interpret the ruling and apply it to new situations. The decision is likely to be cited in legal arguments for years to come, shaping the interpretation of the Second Amendment and other constitutional protections. Importantly, the ruling emphasizes personal responsibility alongside constitutional rights. Citizens who carry concealed firearms must still exercise caution, adhere to safety standards, and respect both the letter and spirit of the law. The Supreme Court's decision does not remove accountability, it reinforces the idea that rights come with responsibilities. Law-abiding citizens now have the legal backing to carry, but misuse of that right can still result in criminal consequences. This balance is central to the court's approach, demonstrating careful consideration of both liberty and public welfare. Communities across the United States will feel the ripple effects of this ruling. Local governments, schools, businesses, and public spaces may need to reconsider policies regarding firearms on their premises. Employers, for example, may need to revisit workplace regulations, while schools and universities may examine safety protocols. While the ruling primarily affects individual rights, its societal impact is broad. influencing policies, perceptions, and public discourse nationwide. Another key point is the psychological impact of this decision. For many Americans, the Supreme Court's ruling provides reassurance that their right to self-defense is recognized at the highest level. It validates the concerns of citizens who have long argued that restrictive state laws infringed on their constitutional rights. At the same time, it challenges opponents to rethink their approaches, emphasizing dialogue, compromise, and understanding of constitutional limits. The ruling is not just legal, it is deeply social and cultural, affecting how Americans understand freedom, responsibility, and personal security. The decision also has implications for future legislative efforts. States may propose new laws that comply with the ruling while still addressing safety concerns, creating a new wave of policy development. Federal lawmakers may also take note, potentially considering legislation that further standardizes firearm rights or addresses specific concerns raised by the court. This ruling, in many ways, sets the stage for a new era in gun legislation, one in which constitutional protections are clearly prioritized and legal uncertainty is minimized. Education and awareness are now more important than ever. Citizens must understand what the ruling means for them personally and how to navigate any remaining requirements in their state. Training programs, legal guidance, and community outreach will all play a crucial role in helping individuals exercise their rights safely and responsibly. Knowledge is power, and this ruling underscores the importance of being informed and proactive regarding personal rights and legal obligations. Ultimately, the Supreme Court's 9-0 ruling is a landmark moment that reshapes concealed carry laws across all 50 states. It clarifies the constitutional right to self-defense, balances individual liberty with public safety, and creates a more uniform legal landscape for millions of Americans. The decision is historic, profound, and likely to influence legal, political, and social discourse for years to come. For gun owners, lawmakers, and citizens alike, understanding the scope and implications of this ruling is essential. The landscape of concealed carry in America has changed forever, and the consequences of this decision will be felt nationwide for decades. This is a historic turning point, from the practical changes in state laws to the broader implications for constitutional interpretation. The ruling sets a precedent that will guide the nation for generations. The Supreme Court has spoken clearly: the right to carry a firearm for self-defense is fundamental, uniform, and protected nationwide. Citizens must adapt, states must comply, and the country as a whole must acknowledge that concealed carry laws will never be the same. As this ruling takes effect, millions of Americans can carry with confidence, and the legal framework that governs these rights is now clearer than ever before.